25 Scary Human Encounters. According to Reddit. Number 25. Late 80s. Was running errands in town with my mom and two sisters. Back then, it wasn't uncommon to leave your kids in the car while you ran inside to the store. We're sitting in the car waiting, and then I see an older guy yelling at my sisters to lock the doors, while I lock the two on my side. He comes over and spends the next couple of minutes trying to open all the doors on the car, while we are just cowering in our seats. Eventually, the guy gives up and leaves, and we were all around the age of 8 and under at the time. I just knew that if he had gotten in that car, he would have taken one of us. Number 24. Middle of the night, working alone in a convenience store. No customer for hours. Then this tall, thin Indian man comes in. He stands in front of me and just stares at me for a few seconds. I remember his eyes were yellow as fuck. After a few seconds asking him if I can help him, he just says, "Everything's gonna be alright." That I shouldn't worry, and then he leaves. Eerie as fuck. Never really found out what that was about. Number 23. I was up in my third floor building, having just had a spliff, chilling to music with my headphones on, when I started to hear weird noises. Naturally, I just thought it was because I was stoned. It was weird enough for me to take my headphones off, though. I listened for a bit, and coming from downstairs was a creepy voice that I didn't recognize. But it was mixed in with my friend John's voice, who also lived in the house. But it sounded like he was in pain. I start slowly walking downstairs, and then look into his room and saw John on the floor holding his eyes in pain, with a big dude in a hoodie shouting at him and grabbing things off the shelves. The next thing I know, autopilot kicks in and I run toward the room. The hooded dude turns, ran out the door, when I smashed into him, making us both go tumbling down the staircase trying to exchange punches on the way down. We scuffle in the hallway until he eventually runs out the door. It transpired that John, who at the time was on crutches, was hobbling home and went to open our front door when the hooded dude came up behind him and pepper sprayed him in the face, blinding him. He then took him up to his bedroom to rob him and his things. The poor guy had to have iPads for the next 2 days. Anyway, it was all pretty fucked up, but John was okay in the end. And honestly, I was so stoned that it didn't really feel like it was even happening at the time. It was like a bad trip. Number 22. Once while getting stoned with my mates in a graveyard, I was around 16 or 17 years old. My friend's little brother was suddenly accosted by an absolute giant of a man and a pair of his cronies. We had seen them coming, but didn't expect any violence. He grabbed my mate's brother in a headlock and said, "We're gonna go shave his head." I'll add that we were all typically long-haired, black denim and Pantera t-shirt spotting types. Getting verbally and occasionally physically abused was kind of a standard for us. Thinking that they were probably joking to a degree, I pulled my friend out of the hold. Next thing I know, I'm being punched around the chops by a guy a solid foot taller than me, a decade older and with strength and a reach that I couldn't possibly compete with. I spent a lot of my childhood getting beat up by adults, but by this point I thought I got through that part of my life. But he held me by my neck and just kept punching me until I hit the ground. By this point, my collective of mates are doing all they can to stop him, but he's swatting them like flies. One calls the police. Once I'm on the ground, he kicks me in the skull, 11 times in all. I'd heard he was wearing steelies, but I'm not entirely sure if that's true. He just wouldn't stop, throwing all that he had at my skull. The last kick was under the chin, and everyone heard a massive crunch. It was enough to make my attacker stop and run away. It's okay though, it wasn't my neck, but I had 7 of my teeth shattered whilst biting through the edges of my tongue. I was left with a dodgy eye, dodgy ear, fucked up memory, fucked up spine. Still get weird headaches since then too. But I got off lucky, because I don't bruise. The hospital kinda dismissed me upon arrival, and I then had to go give a statement. It was at this time that a lot more frustrating issues became apparent. They caught the bloke. He had to pay me £120 towards dental bills, but most importantly, my friends were all fine. I'd been getting my ass kicked by people for years, so I'm happy it was me and not them. I've just no idea why he was so determined to seemingly kill me. He died a couple of years back now. Good riddance. Number 21. My friends and I were around 13 years old. My friend says that she knows where to get a joint. Okay. Let's go. We walk to a house and this 40-something-year-old dude just comes out the front door. First alarm bell starts going off in my head, but I ignore it. I trust my friend, right? We go inside. The guy and my friend start talking. He says that he has some weed for us, but we have to smoke it there. He goes to get it ready, and I look at my friend like, who is this guy to you? She shrugs and basically says that he's just some guy she met who gives her free weed. She drops to a whisper and says that she thinks he takes pictures of her when he thinks she isn't looking, but she doesn't really care. Free weed, am I right? Women. More alarm bells, but for some reason I feel like I can't just walk out. The guy gets back, we start smoking, and I ask why he isn't smoking. He says he's on felony probation for something and could get into trouble. As soon as we finish and leave, I vowed never to go back there. Weeks later, my friend is over there when the police raid the guy's house for reasons I still don't know to this day. Looking back, I am frightened of what could have happened. Could have ruined your life. You kill a man, you serve a sentence, and you get to go back. But they catch you with a little bit of drugs on you, that's the rest of your life. Number 20. When I was 13, I just got dropped off from the school bus, so I had to walk a bit of a ways home. As I get close to the corner of my street, some guy in a dark blue car rolls up and asked where I was headed. I told him I was going home. The guy then excruciatingly slowed his car down to match my walking speed and asked if I wanted a ride home. I told him, no thanks, I'm almost home. Then he continued to ask where I live and if I still wanted a ride home. Luckily, I had a phone at this age. I pulled out the phone and pretended to call my mom. The guy saw that I was doing this and sped off like crazy. From the age of 13, I started carrying pepper spray. Ain't shit wrong with that. Protect yourself. A lot of people, blame the people who are terrible, but it's time for some people to wake the fuck up and realize that you need to take measures to not get stepped on, because there are people out there stepping. And if you're not careful, they'll end up stepping on you. Don't you need your teeth? Number 19. I spent a few months when I was 16 hanging out with some organized crime guys in my hometown. Dudes had Uzis in their trunks, and people did not fuck with them. One night I went with a younger one on an errand. I wasn't told what for, but he started driving to a bad part of town and told me that I was going to help him take care of something. I got out at a stoplight and just started walking. Something was not right. I never spoke to those dudes again. I was pretty sure at the time I was going to get killed or help kill someone. In retrospect, I was probably just on a beer run or maybe sent to pick up some money from a gambler or something. But at the time, I was convinced I was going to be a part of or a victim to a major crime. They're gut instincts that we have as creatures. Sometimes you shouldn't ignore them. Number 18. I've been home invaded 3 times. Once by 2 guys who had a gun, a knife, and a bottle of gasoline that they splashed all over everyone. The other 2 times by 4 dudes with knives. Got stabbed one of those times, only in the hand, but they were going for my face. Luckily, I was fast enough to catch it. Those experiences were pretty freaky and taught me a lot of how savage and animalistic people can be. Some people believe they have nothing to lose. Don't operate your life under the assumption that just because you would or wouldn't do certain things that other people are somehow like you, or that in any way they aspire to be like you. If you feel yourself being confused about that point, you may be getting old. Number 17. Me and my boyfriend came back at like 2 a.m. from a night out. We were both quite drunk and stumbled into the hallway to find the elevator, when we see drops of something on the floor. It was definitely blood, fresh and wet. The elevator button and door was covered in bloody handprints as well. My boyfriend called the elevator, pushing me aside, not knowing what would be in it. Luckily, nothing, except for a puddle of blood. The elevator came from the 5th floor, so we went investigating. The trail of blood ended at the door, with huge hand smears of blood on the door. It took all our courage to ring, but I'm so glad that we did. An elderly man opened the door. He looked like straight out of a horror movie, covered in blood from head to toe. His gray sweater also soaked red. His hair was wet. His shoes were filled with blood. We immediately sobered up. I called an ambulance, which arrived in 2 minutes. Bitch, where the hell y'all living? My boyfriend went inside the flat, helping the man sit down. There was so much blood that I have never seen that much in my life. We didn't know what happened to him until we met him yesterday properly for the first time. Recognized my boyfriend's glasses. He was drunk, wanted to ride his bike home, crashed somehow, got a huge head wound. He takes heart medicine, which thins his blood, and that's why he lost so much. If we hadn't rung the doorbell, he would have bled to death. He actually gifted us money and a super expensive bottle of champagne for something completely self-explanatory. What? Number 16. My father had a heart attack. Me having to translate everything in the emergency room from Polish to English and back again? Oof. There's an entry from like a 15-year-old. I like that one now. Short and sweet. Someone responds to that entry. Same here, but it was my grandfather, and he was deaf, so I had to use ASL. The 911 operator got snippy with me and accused me of prank calling them because I didn't hear you ask him to raise his arm, when I had already told her multiple times at the start of the call that he was deaf and I'd be signing to him as a form of communication. Her behavior caused unnecessary delay in the response time of the EMS because she kept drilling me on if he was really deaf instead of sending someone out. Still one of the worst experiences of my life. Just goes to show you, as long as you're dealing with people, you're gonna have a bad time. People. What a bunch of bastards. While we're on the topic, I recall hearing a story about a person who was charged. She was like a 911 operator that would just hang up on people because she didn't feel like taking a call. I'm sure if we were to type in a criteria matching what I'm saying, 911 call operator hangs up. Yeah, 911 operator hangs up on thousands of calls. Because she wasn't in the mood to take them. Pretty wild, huh? Phrases like, ain't nobody got time for this, deal with it yourself. Even if neither of these phrases were actually said, the fact that she hung up on them when it is your job to receive a call in someone's time of emergency is pretty horrifying. And it's just a scary reminder that even though we already live in a world where some people are frightened to call the police because there's so much corruption when things go wrong, you may even have to go through somebody else that because they're human, they're a son of a bitch, It's funny to think. Remember the human. Remember the human. The human is what makes this list horrible. The human. And you throw a black robe on one of these people and call them a judge, and that makes them somehow different? Or do they still have friends that they grew up with that are now district attorneys and police officers and senators and assholes, the whole of them? Fucked up. Here's hoping it doesn't happen to you. So we continue up to number 15. Saturday at Barnes & Noble. I had my son ready on the changing table when another man walks into the restroom. I had seen him eyeing my boy. I decided to wait to uncover my son. The man's body language bothered me as he slowed down on washing his hands, drying, and hesitantly walked out. I kept my eyes on him as I placed myself in front of my son. Now, I'm on two sides of this, because I'm fairly certain that if all of us had a baby right now, we would suddenly feel like a lot of people are watching us and the baby. For two reasons. Because we now have a baby and feel like a spotlight is on us. And because people really do watch people with babies. It is a thing. They watch the hell out of them and the baby. But let's say, for instance, this is a scenario where the guy was somehow inappropriately invested in the child and or seeing him naked. What a fucking ghastly situation. And to think that it's happening right now. Number 14. I went down to the local creek with my friend. We were probably 10 years old or so. There's this local creepy teenager who shows up drunk out of his mind. I immediately knew this was bad. He mumbles something under his breath, and I look at my friend with the, "We need to get the fuck out of here" look. He stepped closer towards us, and another guy, older and probably twice the size, ran up and grabbed him. He told us to go home and not to come back. Later, the creepy guy was involved in a robbery that turned into a murder. And I still feel so thankful to the other guy who was there. I've been reading a lot of rob turned into murder stories lately. Not on this channel, just about them in the news. People going in trying to steal stuff that doesn't belong to them, you know, like what stealing is. And then things go south and it turns into a moida. I can't pretend that I have any sympathy for that, you know? We should all be held accountable to the things that we do, you know? We should all be held accountable for the things that we do, and if you stealing from somebody, what the fuck is wrong with you? And for them to have like this crazy scared reaction and then react by violence on the person? What the hell? Number 13. My first apartment was part of a complex that was U-shaped with a large grassy area in the middle. The neighborhood kids would run around and play in the grass a lot. One day I was sitting on my stoop, talking on the phone, when one of the kids fell over, grabbed his foot, and started crying. He was maybe 5 or 6 years old. He had stepped on a bottle cap and sliced open his foot. I took him inside, had him sit on the edge of the bathtub, washed his cut, and put some Neosporin on it and a Band-Aid and sent him on his way. A few hours later, there's a knock on my door. When I answer, a massive skinhead with a tattoo of a pentagram on his neck was standing there with his chest out. The boy peeking around one of his giant thighs, pointing at me. He stuck his finger in my chest and yelled, "Did you take my boy in your fucking house? That's my son. Did you give him a fucking bath?" "Looked at his foot," I shrieked. "He cut his foot." I washed the cut. He inspected the kid's foot and then asked me what exactly happened. I stumbled through the story and then he said, "All right then." He shook my hand with a vice grip and I never saw him or his son again. Let me tell you something about kids. Don't get involved. Don't get involved. Unless that kid is being snatched by somebody that appears to not be that kid's caretaker, don't get involved. Don't touch no kids. Treat them like a plague. What? Oh no, that child is hurt. Where are this child's parents? And if you want to make sure that the kid is safe while the parents are out of view, hold the kid in public, in place, while shrieking out loud for this. Like, you know, it's like some people live a life like they're women, or that they've never, you know, been in a situation where people claim that they've done something that they haven't done. You know what I mean? I don't care how wrong that sounds. When you're a woman, you can get away with shit because the law is in your favor. And either you embrace that or your experience in life is incomplete. But if you taking a kid behind closed doors, bruh, you deserve whatever comes to you. People ain't gonna stop to listen to that. It's not gonna hold up in a court of law. Not when a bunch of morons get to decide your fate. So, hey, there's the advice. Leave these kids alone. or stand with them in a well-lit public area with clear lines of sight. Pull out your phone, start recording yourself with the kid. I'm not touching that kid. You must say out loud over and over into the video. Start live streaming on Facebook or fucking Instagram. Not touching this kid. Here go me and somebody kid waiting for people to show up. I guess I'm just going to sit here with this kid until somebody show up. Live your life the way that it's meant to be lived. Because the way that the world works right now, if you immediately became as popular as Kanye West or some Ho Kardashian right now, I fucking promise you, niggas in your past would come out of the woodwork. And I don't understand how it's not like immediately something that you all understand. Okay? I'm not ranting like an old man at you. I truly want to educate you in the same way that you should embrace that if you were to win the lottery right now, that everybody that's ever known you would start ringing you up, trying to get a piece of that motherfucking action. Becoming famous is like winning the lottery too. And people have found that they can just go, oh, well, this guy was this way with me. Oh, well, this person was this way with me. And then they can get some of that spotlight too. They can get some of that money too. They can get some of that action. They can open some doors. Okay? Don't let it be you. Don't let it be you. Number 12 on the list of 25 scary human encounters gets a bit spooky. Just kidding. I don't know. I haven't read it. I was driving through a somewhat rough neighborhood at night. It was late. I had just watched a movie. I'm sitting at a light, and we see this guy in a beat-up car take a bump of cocaine next to us. We make eye contact, and as the light turns green, he merged behind us, and then proceeds to follow us around, flashing his lights, honking. He does this shit for several blocks. We pull up on another red light. He pulls up next to us, yelling at us to roll down the window. Turns out he just wanted to let us know that we had a tail light out. And then he drove away. Interesting. Here's hoping everybody's day doesn't have a boob shortage. I believe in you. Everyone focus on the voice. I'll do the reading for you. Not that one. Let's use this one. Number 11. Drunk driver tried to mow me down while I was on my moped. I went down a dead-end street and luckily managed to get my bike up on the pavement and put a parked car between me and the drunk, so he could not get me. Pretty intense. This is the kind of story that needs a follow-up. It just ends right there. Someone responds, I had to sell my car when I was pregnant. It was a lemon, unsafe to drive, so I ended up riding a bike to and from work. I had to go to the train station from my flat for work, and I did this until I was about 6 months along. Some jackass tries to run me off the damn road when I was riding back from class at 9 p.m. I was so scared, I stopped riding my bike after, and was able to get a new car a month later. Be careful, ladies. Number 10. Last year I moved from a dense urban area to a really underpopulated area. I got super into trail running. There's a big circular route that I like, in this local nature preserve. Over the summer, I was on an early morning run there when I passed a dude sitting on a rock slightly off the trail. He looked exceedingly normal, street clothes, hat, boots. I figured him for a hiker. Whatever. So I make my way down the path, around, uphill, into this nice overlook where I usually stop to drink from the fountain. It's when I'm bent over the fountain that I hear a twig snap. I straighten up to see the guy, crouched over and stepping through the woods of the clearing like he's trying to creep up on me. I fucking ran. The sprint back was the most terrifying experience of my life, obviously. I don't know if I lost him or if he gave chase at all. The police never found anyone matching his description, and I don't run anywhere near there anymore. Look, ladies, if y'all a sexy bitch, be fucking careful. And non-sexy bitches, be fucking careful. Because as long as you don't have a ding-a-ling, jingling on down there, like with the jingle bell rocking, they'll be, oh, excuse me, sorry. They're coming for you. They just tried to silence me with their voodoo. Can't believe that. Number 9. My ex-girlfriend was very abusive, verbally abusive. After I said that we were breaking up, she walked into the kitchen. I had no idea why, but I was terrified. She came out with something behind her back. I bolted behind her house and went home. Never returned again. Yo. When you with a girl for a while and you think you know her, but then she's the type to stab your ass. You've been figuratively backstabbed, but have you been literally stabbed in the back? What's that behind your back? Have you made me a cake? Bitch, you are the cake. Slice, slice, baby. Slice, slice, baby. Ding, 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 ding. Number 8. The first apartment that I was in, I moved in right after some coworkers. After living there for a bit, my coworkers jacked a drug dealer. No. My coworkers jacked as fuck drug dealer shows up and he's pissed off. When I answer the door, he wanted to come in and talk to my coworker. I said it was just me and my girlfriend. I didn't want to wake her, so I took the conversation outside. Turns out he just got out of jail and needed $200. I talked him down, saying that $200 wasn't worth any more time, and he just let it go. After what felt like an eternity, he finally thanked me and left. I didn't sleep well until I left that fucking apartment. My heart goes out to anybody working in a crazy area. I mean, working, as in like you live in an area that's crazy. That's what you got to work with. I apologize. Because sleeping with one eye open is very stressful. Number 7. I was at a sleepover at my friend's place. We decided to sneak out and wander around aimlessly. We stopped at our school, which had a small patch of trees on the grounds where the older kids hung out during lunch. There were rumors of great Playboy collections here, hence our visit. While we're here, my friend stepped off to the side to take a piss. A few seconds later, he comes rushing back, saying that we need to run. I didn't know what his deal was, but as a kid in the forest, with only the light of the moon, I figure asking questions was a secondary option to being left alone. We ran until we couldn't run anymore. Finally, my friend explained that there was some weirdo looking at him pee. He said that he believed that the guy was jerking off. Being kids with a history of pranks, I thought he was fucking with me. And then I looked back and saw the guy a long ways back, but moving in our direction. We kept running towards my friend's place, and he kept following. When we got back, we thought we had lost him. We snuck back inside, turned off all the lights in the basement, and laid there silently and terrified. About 10 minutes later, we see something move by the window. We knew someone was out there. We stayed completely still and quiet, and a minute later, we hear a noise come from a room in the basement. We both lost it and started yelling "Dad" for my friend's dad. He came running down the stairs and we were yelling someone's in the room. His dad flung open the door and the window was open and there were fresh marks on the wall from someone climbing in or out. For some reason, he did not call the police. He decided to just stay downstairs with us for the night. I didn't really sleep. And in the morning, my friend's dad made me walk home with him. A few blocks away, there were a bunch of police. As we walked by, one of the cops stopped us and asked us if we saw anything suspicious last night. We told him the story, which kicked off further questioning. It turns out that a kid went missing from his room right around the same time that we got chased home. They found the guy a few days later dead from suicide, but they never found the boy he abducted. We had a lot of trouble with that. I'll tell you who should have had more trouble was that little boy's dad who chose not to call the police. My friend's dad became addicted to sleeping pills. My friend was traumatized with how close he came to being grabbed in the forest. He turned to drugs really young and eventually killed himself. I went through therapy for a while and still have occasional night terrors from the night, even though it happened almost 30 years ago. Number 6. My house was broken into while we were having dinner. I was about 7 years old at the time. My son answered the door because she thought it was her friend. Turns out, it's robbers with masks and guns. I was pretty small at the time and no one noticed me. I noped out of there and walked straight into my bedroom and locked the door. I think I was in shock at the time. I just didn't know what to do. In retrospect, I should have called the police, but I didn't. Number 5. I was investigating a fire for an insurance company in a fourplex in North STL. North STL is a bad area. It was clearly an arson. I had 5 separate unconnected fires that I'd been there for a while taking photos of and just doing my thing. I was drawing my diagram in the building when I hear 2 guys walking by the building on the side of the wall. I'm straining to hear what they're saying since it could be pertinent to my investigation, and the 2 guys get to the rear of the building where the fire department had ripped out the wall to be able to extinguish the hot spots that they had found. I can clearly see them both standing there talking.
Just 'cause I want to hugging face.
Thank you, Sekas. It looks like eggplant. Courage was on fire for a second. I can clearly see them, both standing there talking. They start to kick through the debris on the ground, and one starts saying how dumb some bitch that had snatched on his buddy was for setting the fire. Snitched, I'm guessing. He started telling the other guys about how he's going to deal with her, and pulls a goddamn pistol out from his waistband. At this point, I'm frozen in fear, about to shit my pants, hoping that they don't look 90 degrees and see me standing there like a jackass. So I crouch down as low as I can without making noise and wait. Was this, a video game? The hell are they announcing their shit at the scene of the crime for? They continue to talk about how it's bullshit, that she told the cops on him, blah 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 blah. Oh my god. Finally, a car drives by and I use the sound of it to get out of the house, out of the front door, which unfortunately wasn't super quiet since most of the floor had collapsed and I was wearing fire boots. I get to my truck across the seat and I'm sitting in the driver's seat trying to unclench my butt when the guy with the gun walks around the side of the house to the front. He sits down and aims at me. I turned the truck on and got the fuck out of there. I ended up going back about an hour later to see if they were gone because I had to finish my scene. Still one of the top 5 scariest moments of my career so far. Well. Number 4. I was riding my bike to school, taking the bike trail, when I noticed a guy leaning against a light post. Thought nothing of it since I've taken this trail pretty much every day through the high school. Anyway, I'm riding and things go dark. Turns out I passed by a guy who turned and pistol whips me. I woke up to him trying to take my feet out of the straps of my bike. He notices I'm awake and immediately points his gun at me, asking me to hand my bike over. I resist at first, telling him that my mom had just bought it for me and begging him not to, but he takes it anyway. It still bugs me to this day. Wow. Number 3. My last night with my ex, he went through my phone while I was asleep and saw in my history that I had been looking at domestic violence resources in our area. He freaked out. Like it was such a huge surprise to him because I'd been careful to hide any hint of a problem. He started hitting me, but it was different this time. Previous violence had been so controlled. Cold, calculated punishments. This time I was just sitting there and taking it. And the less I reacted, the angrier he got. He grabbed me by the face and held me up screaming. He could do whatever he wanted to me. I believed he could. All I could do was think about getting through that night. He said if I left him, I was effectively killing him, and that if I was okay with killing him, why should he not want to do the same thing to me? I don't think I'd ever truly thought he was capable of killing me until that point. And it was just like my world broke. It was the longest night of my life, and I had to pretend to make up with him. I apologized, we went to bed spooning, and I just didn't sleep that night. Every time he moved, I was scared he was going to get up and get a knife from the kitchen to kill me. The next morning, I barely convinced him that he should still go to work. It was just hours that morning of lying through my teeth, promising I loved him, saying that I'd make a cake today and meet him for lunch, just fucking anything. I needed him to trust he could leave me. We even had fucking sex. And I pretended to agree when he said that he hoped he'd knock me up. As soon as he left, I packed my bags and left. The police picked him up from his job, and I got a restraining order against him. When I was finally in the station, a policewoman just grabbed my hand and said I was safe now, and I broke down. I don't always feel safe yet, but I feel a lot safer now than I did with him. Kudos to that amount of strength. Not a lot of people have that in them. Number 2. I woke up hung over as hell in my apartment in Philadelphia to a big guy with a big gun pointed at me, telling me to give him his money. Wait, give him my money? Nice. It honestly took me a few seconds to realize what was happening, and as I frantically searched my wallet, he took my backpack with my laptop and also stole a few Eagles/Flyers jerseys. The weirdest thing was he stole all my socks as well. Man, I hope some people get the slicing up they deserve. As we continue and destroy the last entry on this list. Number 1 reads, I got chased down by the neighborhood delinquent teen with a gun when I was walking home from the bus stop with my friends. I was 10 years old. My friends were around the same age, maybe 11. We ran to a house for help. A middle-aged woman answers the door, but refused to let us in or to help us. She said it was just a prank. We tell her it's not. She was convinced that we were trying to get in her house and rob her. We ran further to my friend's house. Her mom happened to be off work early and was home. She called the police. I got to ride in a cop car and watch the cops take down this 17-year-old piece of shit onto the pavement. Well, it is what it is. Here's hoping you all enjoyed this list. I want to thank you all for being here. And I want to issue a special thanks to the YouTube sponsors, to the Twitch subscribers, and to the patrons. You guys are what it's all about. Special thanks to Seka Z for that donation. And thank you to Seeker for his donation. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for all the subscriptions. Live your life. And stay out of trouble. And if you're dying for attention like some of you are in the stream chat, here's hoping you find it before you ruin yourself. Have a great day.